Okay, I thought I'd do this little prequel to a prequel video just to update a few things that watching the videos I've actually gotten around to trying to post this thing. Notes from what I did. Now it's been 4.5 years. I was successful putting my tank back in after changing my fuel pump. This is kind of a tandem video with the fuel pump replacement. So, put a link in there for that as well. A couple of notes. You can leave some fuel in your fuel tank. Actually makes it a little easier to drop the tank out of there, get you some weight. Putting it back up, it's probably a little easier with less fuel in it, depending on your circumstances. You can see in my case I ended up draining everything out of it, so it was empty when I put it back in. I believe the drive shaft does not have to come out. I pulled it out the first time, but I ended up having to take the whole thing back out again due to some errors on my part in working with the fuel pump. I believe I addressed that in that particular video. While you got this thing up here, the fuel hoses, so if you're looking forward on this, they're in the left corner back over here. See, in my case, when I put it back in there, I actually had leaks up in there, which I didn't have leaks to start with, but once you get monkeying around in there, it wasn't even the lines where I took them apart, it was down the other end. So my suggestion is, like always, when you get access to things, they're rubber fuel hose, I would suggest go ahead and replace the rubber fuel hoses while you're in there. Save yourself some trouble of having to come back anytime later. Then do that. Also, this fuel tank, once you start pushing it up in the back, and it goes up back first, once you get those big fuel hoses on the back, this thing will basically hang up in there without the straps on it, so you can maneuver around there a little bit easier, because once those straps are engaged in the side rails, they just kind of hang down in the way, and they're kind of a pain in the butt. So you can almost get away without putting them back up in there. But the issue you have is that you have to push them up and twist them, so you'll have to figure that out as you go. Maybe move the front of the tank off to the side or whatever, but that's a possibility. You don't have to worry about the tank falling back down once you get the back hoses on it. And besides the fact that I keep mentioning you take special tools, this does not have any special tools required for my installation. It just has hose clamps where it hooks to the fuel pump, and down where those hoses hook to the metal fuel lines running down the rails on the truck. So pretty simple screwdriver doing all that. So anyway, those are the little things I learned after the fact. So on with the fun. Okay, today we're gonna take a break from one of the other projects because we're waiting on some parts, and I need to get this going because this one's licensed and registered and insured, and it's been sitting here a while. Problem I have with this, got a 30-gallon fuel tank. I can't fill it up. I fill it up, gas just dumps out the top of it. I believe the last time I put a fuel pump in it, I didn't change the seal ring. I'm assuming that it's just leaking around the top of that. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the fuel tank on it. I got a new seal ring, and I'm gonna use the red RTV and seal the living snot out of it because I want my 30 gallons. It's not very safe to have gas dumping out of this. The only time I can use it now is going to the gas station when we're on the road, getting ready to go somewhere, top it off and go. And the gas pours out of the top of it for a few miles. Don't like it. I need to take care of that problem. I got a new seal ring. Last time I did this, I pulled the drive shaft. The only fancy things, there's a couple of fuel connectors, which I think the universal kit I have will take care of. So we're going to do that. I did it in a few hours the last time. This time I've run the truck out of gas, which should make it helpful, clean it out, and make it a lot lighter. I'll be using a floor jack and putting some plywood or something under there, and you're going to come along for the ride if you choose. So my trusty truck has got 297,000 miles, I believe. Still in pretty good shape. Still runs great. So we're going to get moving on that, and we'll keep cruising. Okay, step 2. Pulling this fuel tank. I'm trying to make myself some shade here. The sun's way over, so it's kind of weird. Anyway, step 2. 5/16 ratchet I was able to get in here. Pull the negative battery terminal, push it on down out of the way. You're going to be using an electric fuel pump, and I'm about to turn the key on so I can put it in neutral. I got a trickle charger on there because this thing's been sitting for a while. So next step, get in here, key in ignition, put it in neutral. You can basically take the key out of it at that point. Now we can turn the drive shaft. The reason we can turn the drive shaft because we're going to take the drive shaft out. I need something to lay on. I'm going to try this nice big piece of cardboard. Let's see. It's been a while since I've been up in here. The beauty of trucks, though, you can. You don't have to jack them up. Drive shaft. I'm going to figure out what those cap bolts are. Put a 3/8 ratchet on it and turn the drive shaft since it's now in neutral. Loosen up those two, spin it, loosen up the other two. Once their caps are loose and off the drive shaft, you just kind of push it forward a little bit and it'll slide up on the yoke, and then we're going to pull it on out of there. Or are we? You know what? I don't think I am. I'm going to drop it down and push it off to the side. The fuel tank is right here. I'm going to put a floor jack under that. It's a couple of fuel lines that require a fancy fuel line tool, which I believe I have. A couple of straps. Disconnect a couple of hoses at the back where the filler is. And that'll be close. Alright, we'll go from there. Continuing. Okay, drive shaft's off, and it's a time for one of those disclosures. So as I got up under there, trying to turn the drive shaft, I'm staring at the rear end thinking, you know, this doesn't seem right. Putting it in neutral doesn't do anything but allow you to turn the drive shaft when you want to put it back up there. Because you're not going to turn the rear end and move this thing around by hand, so, and you don't need to. So using a what the heck is this? Turns out to be a 7/16 socket in my warpy deal. A little extension. I was able to get up in there and pull all 4 of those bolts. I stuck them back in the caps. Put the caps back on the drive shaft for the time being. Just push the drive shaft over off to the side so it gets some clearance. I really don't like working in the dirt. Oh, and then I tried to have a little discussion with the drive shaft about coming out of there. It didn't like my discussion, and then I started recalling something about a tire iron, the pointy end of a tire iron the last time. It's been quite a while since I did this. So I ended up getting a nice big fat heavy duty screwdriver, and you can stick it in there and pry it. Just give it a little pop, and you pull the drive shaft, pops right off the little caps. So next thing is to come back here. I really wish I had a nice place to work, but I don't. So if you can see those 2 hoses up there, use a 1/4" drive ratchet, 5/16, a little extension. Pull those off of there, and what I'm going to do, I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, if I can do it one-handed. I'm just going to pull on those rubber hoses. This thing's empty of fuel, so theoretically I can't see what I'm doing when I'm filming. So anyway, what I'm going to do is get those loose. If you can see it's starting a little bit. It's going to take probably both hands. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to probably get something up in here and loosen this one up. So I can do it with my fingers. There. Okay, well it's loose. So it's just a rubber hose. Get the clamps back off them. So I'm going to pull those back off of there. And then I got to find the fuel lines that go in the front by the fuel pump, or the fuel filter, I believe. And then there's these two metal straps with the oh, look at that, the bolts up at the top over there. So when I get to that point, I'm going to put a board under here. I'm going to put a ramp for the floor jack. Bring the floor jack up. I'm going to release those nuts, those bolts on the straps. Pull the straps down, and the tank will come down. We got to work it down out of there. And that's why I pulled the drive shaft, because it's got to come out and it runs into the drive shaft. And it's a lot easier to have the drive shaft out. So I'm going to turn this off and pull those hoses and reposition, and we'll find out where those fuel lines are and what I need to do to pull them, and continue on. Okay, that one took two hands. Grabbing a hold of the one hand over here and twisting and pulling down, and they come off, both of them. So there's the two lines off the back. Okay. Alright, day 2. After pulling the drive shaft, this is my setup. I set up a little fan over there just because it's really hot in Florida. So I put a tarp across because I'm really tired of rolling around in the dirt. So I got a tarp stretched out across the whole thing. This is my setup. I got this particle board, splintering piece of wood from hell. You got to be really careful with this stuff. It'll splinter and stick you. Got my floor jack on a runner. Little piece of ply, yeah, 2x4 in there. Let's see if we can do this. Half-inch drive, half-inch drive. Oh, excuse me a second. I'm old. My brain doesn't work as well anymore. Last time I did this, I didn't have reading glasses. I didn't need reading glasses, so it's been a while, I guess. Anyhow, hopefully this will focus. Straps go over there. These are the bolts. Of course, I have them been inverted just for the heck of it, so I can show them to you. They give you nice long bolts, so you can push this up and get them started. I'm going to pull those out in a minute, get them out of the way, and pull the straps down as I drop this tank. Where is my tools? Oh, the other strap, of course, is up. Oh, there, strap. So there's the setup. Got my half-inch floppy, sorry, half-inch socket. A long extension which allows you to work down below the tank. Yeah. And my floppy headed 3/8 drive ratchet. So those are out of there. I have to look in the manual because, you know, if all else fails, read the directions. All I can find is my 3-inch part 2 manual, the 4.5 whatever it is part 1 manual. I cannot find it, even though it's gigantic. So I went to good old YouTube here, and once again found a nice real video of how to change the fuel pump by, okay, first bleed off the fuel pressure, then put it on the lift. Well, you know what, if you put it on the lift, then you're probably a professional mechanic anyway, and you really don't need to be watching the videos. So this is unfortunately what you call the shade tree backyard. This is the real thing. This is what most people end up having to do. You can put this thing on some jack stands, or drive it up on ramps would be cool. If need be, though, I'm laying on the ground underneath this truck. It sits up high enough you can get up in here. I do believe. I sure hope so, because I gotta pull it out. I think I've done this before. So the straps are loose. Okay, so the video tells you when you, in order to get to those fuel lines, that you need the special tools. You got to drop the tank a little bit. There's another hose, a vent line or something up here somewhere, and then the 2 lines, high pressure lines. I did find my fuel filter, which has nothing to do with it, but it'll be changed to when I get done. It's sitting up over here. Anyway, I'm going to try to drop this. Let's see if I can. I don't know if I can do all this chew gum and whatever at the same time. I'm not going to need all my hands probably, but I'm going to go ahead and try to drop this a little bit. It's going to drop right on my head. Alright, so I'm going to have to get on the other side and see if I can get to those lines. It's tucked up under here. You can see that. So the whole thing has to come back and go up into here. So I'm going to get on the other side where the drive shaft is, and I don't know if I'll be able to show you that or not. See if I can get to those lines. May have to show you how that works afterwards. Alright, I'm going to keep cruising. Alright, so I dropped the tank. I've been going cautiously because I always could swear there's some special fittings that you need a special tool for. And as I was dropping it, I'm getting ready to go around the other side, and I happen to peer in here, and I'm not sure I'm right or not. Anyway, those are just hose clamps. 2 hoses. There. And I've loosened the hose clamp up. The back one just came right off. It was loose. So there's a possibility that I just never tightened that sucker up, and that's where it was leaking when I filled it up, but not sure about that. Anyway, I loosened that one up. I had some pressure to it. Just dripping a little bit, so I'm just going to loosen those and pop them right off of there. And the electrical connector's back in there. I'm going to reach in there and pop that off of there. If that's all to it, that's all there is. And man, it's going to come right out of there. I can't remember. Alright, let me I can't hold flashlight, camera, and pull them all at the same time, so let me go ahead and yank all that stuff. I'll be back. Alright, just for fun, I'll give you an update where we are at the moment. Okay. There's the tank hanging. There's a little gizmo at the front you got to deal with, the vent line. Different than the video I watched. This is a 96, I think that was a 97. Anyway. Where is it? Well, how come I can see it in real life? Can't really see it. There it is. Okay, anyway, that line right there has got a coupling on it, and I'll show you how to take that apart. Right now we are loose as a goose, I believe. For some reason it's not dropping. I think it's got to go up there. I think the back end comes out first, so I'm going to go in here and push this up and see what happens. I don't know, let's see if I can try this. That's gonna work. Alright, I'll come back. Wow, I don't remember this part coming off. I guess I never took the jack out from it the last time. I dropped the jack and this whole bottom piece slid out of there. I don't know if it's supposed to be stuck to that tank or what. Wow. Anyhow, that'll give me some more room. That's pretty freaky. Alright, so now I got a bare tank there. I didn't get anywhere yet. Moving it around. I got maybe go to the back and manipulate it, see what's going on. Alright. Okay. I was right, the front has to come out first, because all the hoses and fittings and nipples, the big plastic nipples, stick out the back of it. But at this point, this is where we say, Houston, we have a problem. from my era. That's what we say. Okay, there's the tank. You notice something wrong. The truck's on the ground, the tank's on the ground. I don't remember this part. That tank sticks way up there. I don't think, in my client, these strap hangers are in the way. I think I'm gonna have to jack this sucker up, is what I think. I think maybe I put it on ramps the last time. In fact, backing this thing up onto some ramps would be really good. So, I'm gonna have to simulate that. I don't think this is gonna manipulate out of there. I think that's gonna end it for today, because that looks like a job's gonna take a while. I'll start that in the morning, hopefully. This is Monday night, my Friday. I'll monkey around a little bit. I'll let you know if it works. Otherwise, I'll be back when I'm jacking. Okay, slight modification of the plan. Jacked it up, put it on a jack stand, which apparently I did the last time. I had on jack stand on the ramps because it doesn't go high enough if you just drop it out the bottom. And this allows it to be pulled. You gotta pick up one end, of course, and then slide her out. Now you have the tank. Very interesting thing here. My problem is that it's been leaking when I fill it up. I look around here and I don't see, it's a little wet in here, but this is a new pump, so, but I do see wet back up around here. So I'm gonna clean this thing all off. You can see that where it's all wet down the side. I may be chasing the wrong thing, but I don't know what the hell this is. If it's that obvious and that's just a little hole in there, then there's my problem. Because the problem is, when you fill this thing up, this is full over here. So if you fill it up, you can see you got 6 inches of gas in this whole area back here that stands up above the fuel tank. Weird design, isn't it? But we shall see. I'm going to fill the whole thing up with water. Once I clean it all up, and if it looks obvious, maybe I'll just flip it over and have water. If it drips out of it, then it'll be obvious. I'm going to hit it with a pressure washer like the other guys did in the other video. I'm going to clean the pan. Hopefully I can do it before the storm gets here. Clean all that out. I don't remember that coming out the last time. It may have just come loose. It may have been stuck to it. It could be that I'm old and I don't remember. I don't remember that doing that. Alright. So, I'm going to clean this up and on to the next issue. Next phase. Alright. Alright, just for fun. Here's what the tank looks like. This I already cleaned out. I think I showed a picture of that. Then I have to prime and paint that. But it's all nasty, so it's getting a treatment. I'll fill up full of water and see the leak. Okay. Alright, so prime this thing good with galvanizing primer. I'm gonna paint it with some black paint. I prefer Rust-Oleum, what used to be called hard hat, now they call it high performance enamel. This stuff's cool because if you get the primer, you can prime it and come right over the top of that and just paint the color right on top of it. You don't have to wait. You don't have to let it dry. Anyway, so I am going to paint the heck out of this, and what I have happens to be gloss black, so I'm gonna do that and I'll show you it afterwards. Alright, so I got it cleaned up inside there. Came out here before I put this in. I was gonna put a little grease on them, and I feel along the outside of these, you can see this is pretty chewed up, so I'm gonna clean up this edges. Pretty much goes for anything. Anytime you get any component out, have a look at it and see if there's anything that will make it install better, take care of problems or whatever. I'm just going to I'm going to actually just take a file and then a little sandpaper and smooth those out, and then slide this puppy in and get this show on the road. Alright, so these are cleaned up a little bit. I ended up just taking a razor knife because the file's really not made for plastic. Put a little bit of grease on them just to make it easier for the tube to go on there. Got my bolts that are 1/2-inch heads. Spray a little WD-40 on those. Ew, got some dirt and stuff in here. I just pulled the blanket out of there because I'm going to have to slide this tank. Alright, so these straps go in these funny looking slots over here. I'm going to try to put the tank in with the straps in it. If you noticed, that broken line at the back was the vent line for the rear end. I went ahead and cut that off and just slid it on over and hooked it up. So I'm about ready to go. See if we can slide that thing in. I have to pick it up one side. And it's got to go tuck up under there. And of course, I'm running into the strap. This may take 2 hands. Alright, it's going to take 2 hands. I'm going to have to slide it back towards that strap to get clearance in there. So it's Wednesday, July 29th, I believe. It's been a while since I've been able to get out here. It's rained. The days that it was nice, I hesitated and did stuff in the house, and then it started raining on me again. Yesterday was the same way. This thing's ready to go now. I realized because I was watching the other videos on this, I kept referring to this as the seal ring, which is kind of a misnomer. I'm talking about the lock ring. I used the old lock ring as I showed you before. Now using the number 2 gasket sealer and putting the quad ring around the plastic lip on the tank and basically gluing it in there. I believe sealed this thing up properly. I think I probably put it just on the around the fuel pump and then set it down in there, apparently, because as I showed you, the little line for that little ridge that actually seals it wasn't on the quad ring. It looks like the quad ring went across the edge, which would answer the question about why it leaked. So hopefully that's good. I did seal it for double protection. We're going to find out, because I'm going to top this thing off to see I'm ready for this thing to work properly before I oh yeah, and this pan here is ready to go. Cleaned it up, painted it. Before we slide that thing in there, I'm going to take a look in here, because since I had the tank out, I haven't been in to find out what it all looks like. And of course, having it on a jack through a ramp over there makes all the difference in the world. If you can see the way these things go in there, they simply slide in with a, so you can actually drop those out of there and get them out of the way. And you're going to have out, so I have to put it in wherever the heck it goes. And that in a minute. Anyway, so this is what it looks like under here. You got these tubes, and you got this dirty mess. I happen to have air. Nope, not a rust hole. That happens to be where the Tinnerman net, as we call those, goes. So I'm gonna go back in here and clean all this up. I'm gonna get a flashlight in here so I can see what I'm doing. But I'm gonna make a mess. Really can't see. So fuel hose that comes into the tank. There's another one up there, tucked up under there, so these are the two that go right down here. So just kind of float along there. The vent line at the front, which I think I showed you, got to reach over the top to get to that. Fuel filter, which is right there, which will not be blocked by the gas tank, so I'm going to go ahead and wait and do that last. But everything looks pretty good up in here. Mufflers on there, they're kind of in the way a little bit, but not so bad. And then anything you see in there, it's a good time to take care of anything you run into. I'm going to go ahead and hose this all down with WD-40, as I always do, all the steel parts, and then we'll slide that sucker in there and start wiggling it on in. It's gonna have to slide sort of to the back, then the front has to be pushed up and it'll have to be pushed past this ledge right here, as I recall. Once we get that up in there, it'll still be kind of hanging, so I can hook up the vent, push it up a little bit with the floor jack under it, and reach in through the side over there, hook these fuel lines up, shove it all the way up in the back. I can run the straps around it, then catch it, and you can hang it on the straps, so it'll be hanging down a bit. Monkey with those hoses. It's easier if it's not completely all the way up where it's going to go. You got a little bit of slop room, you can move the tank back and hook the drive shaft back up. Hopefully dump some gas in this thing and get it back on the road. It's been way too long. Alright, so I'm going to do some blasting, get me a light in here, see what I'm doing, and then start positioning this tank. I'll go from there. Alright, so what I had to do, you gotta, they said you kind of tilt it, give it a little push towards the back. I put my left leg up under here and lifted it a little as I tried to move it backwards, so that the tank has got to go up this way, and then it's going to get pushed up in the front. I'm actually going to go around the other side and try to manipulate it up in there by hand. Then put it on the jack, but it can flop around and give me a little bit of, make it a little easier when I flop it around to maneuver it up in there. So I'm going to try to get it up in there. That's basically, the strap is going there. These little cutouts you can see, so it's almost where it's going to be. You can see the front's nowhere near where it's got to go up and tuck up under there, so it's just a lot of maneuvering and maneuvering to get it up in there. You just got to work your way through it. As soon as I get it up in there and get the bolt started, I'll come back. Another quick note, I can't remember if I mentioned this the last time. It's a lot easier when you take the tank out if you pull those straps. And it kind of takes a little bit of doing to twist them around and drop them out of there. And it's a lot easier to put that tank back under here with the straps out, and then you just kind of push it in, push it around a little bit, and then you can put those straps back in there. And I'm going to slide the floor jack up under there. Now the straps will be in place. You got to push that thing quite a ways up there to get those straps to pull all the way around. And of course get those long bolts in there and fight with it. I'm not going to go through the whole battle this time, because I think I did the last time. So hopefully this time it's going to count. I'll be back, and when I hook this pump back up, when I get it up a little farther and get everything hooked to it. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up. And make sure everything's hunky-dory. Well, you know what? Well, if the pump runs, that's it. I'll go ahead and lock it up and install it, and then put some fuel in it. There's no reason to think now. Once I double, triple, quadruple check that the pump's running once it's up there, I think we'll be good. Alright, I'll be back when I'm mostly done. Alright, just an interim thing here. I was basically, well, sideways, using this underneath the tank to support it and to keep it that height so I could work. Turns out it was too high. I ended up putting this little thing down there. I'm not able to push it up by hand enough. But what I'm trying to point out here is you gotta, before you get too far on this thing, you gotta make sure you hook up that vent line in the top up here, which you basically gotta reach over the top So this has to kind of hang down a little bit so you get about this much room, so you can actually reach in from one side and the other side and push them together, because that little expanding clip has to go. It's got to go. The line goes inside one line and that thing just snaps in. It's just a little vent line there. And now on the back side, you want to make sure you don't get too far up, so you can get in here and put these two hoses and the electrical connector on the back, because once you start pushing this thing up, it's going all the way up in there tight and you won't be able to reach your hands in there. I'm gonna go get my floor jack and a 2x4, slide it up under here and gently try to persuade it up there. These clamps are always a pain in the butt. You got to stretch them all the way around, wiggle the tank, and I just can't do it without having some muscle underneath there. So I'm gonna go get my muscle now. All right, little interim checkpoint here. So first started the floor jack up towards this one. I had to actually put it up underneath that clamp, wobble it around, push it up there, and force. You gotta really push on that strap. The straps are all bent up. I don't know why they don't conform to the shape very well, but get that bolt started. And then I move back here, jack up this side, got that bolt started. I got them started. I'm dropping the jack out of there because I gotta wobble a little bit. You're gonna have to bring them up and tap on these clamps and things. So right now, this is what we're looking at. They're just started. Those will go all the way up. Oh dear, that one's not in straight. All right, so I'll have to jack that back up and move that clamp in somehow. All right, well, it should be straight up in there. Seems to be going in though. That's kind of weird. We're gonna, and you can see not a lot of room for the drive shaft. It goes right next to it. That's what that big plate's there, protect it from that. Let me show you something real quick at the back here before I forget. It's not even pulled up all the way. And there's the lack of clearance. You see the where the lines and everything hooked up is tucked way up in there, so it's really tight. I hope it's all hunky-dory. I assume there's a little well up in there where it goes. That's why you got to do it before you get it all up in there. All right, let me get to tighten and see if I got to move that bolt or what the deal is. Alrighty then, as far as I know, I have everything buttoned up. Just a quick little review. The hose clamps that go on the fuel pump are a 1/4 inch. When you get in here, get finished up. Don't forget the 2 hoses in the back, which are 5/16. These bolts that hold the straps up are 1/2 inch cabinets on the cap bolts on the drive shaft are 7/16. I don't know if they're actually 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter. Some of these things are metric, some are SAE. So theoretically, I hooked up the front vent up there when his tank was hanging, hooked all the hoses up in the back. Everything appears to be in place, ready to go. I'm charging the battery because it's been sitting out here for a couple of weeks, so I'm probably gonna get something for lunch. And actually, first thing I'm gonna do is grab me a Liney Kugel Summer Sandy as a celebratory beer. And I'll get something to eat, and then we're gonna dump gas in this thing, fire it up, and drive it off of here. And then the telltale when we go fill it up to the tippy top at the racetrack down the street. Hopefully we're all good. We shall see. Okay, where I left off several weeks ago, because it's been raining like crazy and I've been out due to medical problems. So where we last left off, put the tank back in, put 10 gallons of gas in, turn the key, nothing. No power, no fuel pump. So I haven't looked at my video lately, determined that the power wire to this plug had come loose back in here. When you get the new fuel pumps, some of them come with this harness. So at some time somebody had spliced it in with extra pieces of wire. Once I hooked this back up, somehow, no, I still don't have any power to this wire. There was power at the purple wire. The purple wire is the power to the fuel sender. My fuel sender's always been, my fuel gauge has always been whacked out. It goes all, bounces all over the place. I think it's something wrong with the gauge. It usually works good enough when it gets down the bottom to make it usable. So what I did was repair that wire, and then I still didn't have any power, so I wanted to just verify everything is good. So I unwrapped everything back in here, found those long little short pieces of splice, cut them out, re-spliced this wire back farther to its the wires coming out of the harness, so there's no extra pieces in there and extra splices. I verified I got a good ground. Then I went forward where the fuel relay is, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Verified that I had power up there. The relay is supposed to go for 10 seconds according to what I saw on YouTube. Mine only runs for 3 seconds and it turns off. There's also a backup, so that when the fuel relay, basically what the fuel relay is to power the fuel pump, get pressure to the system so you can start it. There's also a switch, an oil pressure switch, which is has a switch that connects to this as well, in a separate circuit, redundant circuit, so that when you try to start the thing, once you get oil pressure, that switch closes and you get 12 volts to the fuel pump. As long as the oil pressure is going, you have the fuel pump running. So when you shut the engine off and you get no more fuel pressure, no more oil pressure, it shuts the fuel off as well. So the fuel pump will not run with the no oil pressure. So I basically jumped around and verified that the fuel relay circuit is good. And when I jump it over, which I'll show you, I got 12 volts over here. A royal pain in the butt trying to plug it in up in there. There's almost no way. I had to drop the tank back down a little bit and a little more and a little more, and I finally, so once I determined that I actually had 12 volts going to this plug, when I bypassed it, I bypassed the relay, made sure I had 12 volts here, constant, plugged it in, I got nothing. So then I resolved to just dump in the tank. I found in an unrelated thing, I was going through my paperwork, the records on this, just to try to get rid of some paper while it was raining. I was stuck inside. Found the receipt where I bought this in 2016, this fuel pump, and it's got a limited lifetime warranty. So I shall be, now I'm kind of hoping that the fuel pump has failed. I'll get a new fuel pump. When I had this thing out and was resealing this, I actually, my little voice said, you know, what about putting a new fuel pump in it now, because this is a pain in the butt. And I said, well, you know, it hasn't been that long. It's only been 4 years. These fuel pumps do pretty good usually. I decided to just go ahead and put that one back in, but when I put it up I didn't test it, which I wouldn't think I need to. I was a little arrogant, a little overconfident. I put 10 gallons of fuel in this thing, which is 30 pounds. Actually makes it come out easier, because the weight will help this thing drop. Gravity will assist you dump the fuel once you get it out, and put it up empty. It's a lot easier to maneuver around empty going in, but coming down it's better. Anyway, the reason I decided to make this short little video is because I'm trying to take it out. Last time I had to resolve myself to put it on a ramp, pick it up high enough. I'm out here now, it won't come out. And I look at my ramp, well, it's not really surprising. That ramp is down probably 4 or 5 inches into the mud. It's been sitting there so long. So now I'm gonna have to jack the back end up. I'm gonna put a piece of wood under my ramp so it won't sink anymore. That'll bring it back up high enough to get that tank out of there. And it's just something, if you're wondering, it's like, well, hey, I took it out the last time and now it does not work. It's too low. And that's why this is so much better to do this on concrete where everything stays put. Unfortunately, I don't have a concrete slab to put it on. Well, I could have put it in the driveway up front, but that's not really practical. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is jack this thing up and put that ramp, piece of board under there. So I got to put a piece of wood under my floor jack first so I can jack it up without it sinking in the mud, and then I'll straighten this thing out, get it back in there, and we'll keep going. I'm going to pull that pump out of there, hook it to this harness, and see what happens. Something must have happened to the pump. I don't know what could have happened. It was working fine when I shut it down. So, all right, continuing on. So much fun. So this nightmare continues. So what I got, I have fuel dumping out of here, and I started up and got under here. I had a mist spraying out of there, so I don't know if it's this rubber hose or the metal line underneath it. Why on earth would that all of a sudden start leaking? This metal line here belongs up in this little clamp thing. So I'm gonna have to drop the back clamp, back strap, pry this thing over, and see if I can loosen up the front strap a little, see if I can push this thing over without taking everything down. If I can, I'm gonna just go jump in the swamp or something. I'm going crazy. I so wanted to drive this tonight. This is unbelievable. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and it's not dark yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop that back strap and see if I can figure this out. Maybe I can pull this off. Maybe it's just that rubber hose and I can somehow manage to change it. Right. This is too much. Well, at least my fuel filter's not leaking. And it runs. Oh, caramba. To be continued. Well, I'm gonna be elated if this all it was. All I did was get up in there, put these lines back in their thing, and move this clamp down. Like whoever the last idiot was, put that clamp up too high. And I'm not sure it was even clamping on the pipe. I thought I had some corrosion on this pipe up here. All I did was move that clamp, tighten it up, and I don't appear to have a leak anymore. I gotta push this thing back up in place and clamp it up and see what happens. Man, I hope that's all it was. Some idiot just put the clamps in the wrong place. The other one's up there pretty high too, but I guess it's high enough. The clamp's on it enough. God, I hope that's it. I'm tired of this. I want to get this back on the road. Wow. Alright, I think I'm going to move these things around and try to push this up there with it running just to see if anything changes. May get a bath. I already laid my shoulder into that wet gasoline soaked carpet. It's burning pretty good. Well, I'm going to let it run. Gotta get this tank pushed up in there. Let's see what happens.